This week on Scotty's Garage, we're going to rebuild the transmission in Dad's ute. This is Dad's ute. It's a 1968 Valiant ute that left the factory with a 225 cubic inch slant 6 and a 3-speed manual, so 3 on the tree. Now Dad left me this ute after he passed away from cancer about 12, 13 years ago, and he always wanted to do a V8 conversion on the car. Obviously we didn't get that done while he was still alive, so since then I have put a 318 in it, so it's got a healthy little 318 Mopar engine in it. Makes somewhere between 350 and 400 horsepower, and it has run 13.2 at 105 mile an hour with a slipping transmission. Now we're pretty confident this thing will go 12s with a good transmission in it, so I need to get it up on the hoist, pull the trans and get it out on the bench and hopefully replace all the clutches and bands and that sort of thing. Get this thing running right so we can go run 12s at the Mopar Nats, which is coming up shortly. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a mission this weekend to do this, but I have all the parts. Now I just need to get the transmission out of the car. We are at the Carnage workshop this weekend. I wanted to use the hoist because doing transmissions on the ground is just terrible. It is the worst job in the world. So let's get it up on the hoist, pull that trans and rebuild it and see how that goes. Now getting the trans out isn't particularly fun or sexy, so let's just sort of fast forward through that part and get the trans out on the bench. Get off my roof! Bloody birds. So one of the more annoying parts of removing the transmission is removing the distributor. And you're probably thinking, why would you remove the distributor? Well, this isn't my first rodeo. If you don't remove the distributor, it sits that close to the firewall that when the engine tilts back to remove the transmission, you will bend the distributor. Ask me how I know. Yeah, it's a very expensive exercise. So I've already marked the location of the rotor button and the dizzy housing. So now, get it in there with our special little tool, which I will tell you is worth its weight in gold, because getting in here is a mongrel of a job without it. Okay, loosen the bolt off. Get the clamp out. And now we can pull the dizzy. And we'll just disconnect that. Well, isn't that pleasurable? I lowered the back of the transmission forgetting that it still had fluid in it, and just covered myself in fluid. God, I hate doing this stuff. Transmissions suck. Okay, well, at least that's out, and at least I had a spare shirt in the car. All right, now that ordeal is over, let's get it on the bench and pull it down. Right, so we have our transmission out on the bench. For most Mopar guys, you'll look at this and go, it's a 904. Well, if you haven't seen the channel before, I'll let you know now. It's not actually a 904, it is a 999. So they call it an A999 instead of an A904. Basically, it's a later version of the 904. Same basic shape and layout, except it has a low first gear, so 2.74 first gear. I think it's 1.54 on the second gear instead of 245 and 145. It has a lock-up converter, so you put 12 volt to the switch there and it locks up the converter. So they're a little bit different to your normal 904. A little bit stronger than the traditional 904. Certainly better off the line in terms of drag racing, because they put these in like Dodge Dakota trucks and that. I think, don't know if they ever made them into the Rams, but definitely Dakotas and stuff like that. So if you had a 5.2 and a Dakota, it probably had a transmission like this until it got into the overdrives, which were later on. They had A500s and A518s. So A500's the overdrive version of this box. So it has an overdrive unit sort of there, makes them very chunky around this crossmember area, which makes them really hard to convert into a car later on. Like certainly a car like that, you would have to cut the trans tunnel and the transmission mount area out of the car to get that A500 into it. So that's why you don't see a lot of overdrive torque flights in early Valiants, because it's a bit of a job. Anyway, I have a whole bunch of bands, steels, seals, clutches. It's all over there waiting to go in this box. So let's tear it down and have a look at what we've got and then replace what we need to. Before we get too far ahead, let's start by removing our shift and kick down levers, because they will interfere with removal of the valve body. Good time to remove the neutral safety switch as well. So this bench is awesome for working on. You can leak fluid onto the bench and it'll just drain into a little pan under there. So that is awesome. All right, let's flip it up on its end and we'll remove tail housing and all that. Oh, whoop. Now the fluid's coming. Actually, I forgot, I've got to do the valve body first. So let's do pan off and then we'll do valve body, because we've got to get the parking sprawl out and then we can release all that. Right, you can see there's some material there, and that's only natural. I mean, we know the transmission slips, so we know there's going to be some clutch material there in the filter. That's easy enough. We'll just whip that off and get our valve body out of there. All right, there's our valve body. So we'll go into that later. Right, let's get this circlip. Okay. It's been a little bit finicky. There we go. Right. Easy peasy. Not really. So the next major job is to pull all the innards out, mainly from the front where the pump comes out. But I'm going to tighten this band up first, so that way we can make sure that this doesn't all just fall out higgledy-piggledy. So, because you've got to use a slide hammer on the front. So let's use the band to just hold that together for the moment. So it's just an adjustment on the passenger side or the left-hand side of the case. Oh, geez. Doit. We'll just take the adjuster nut off completely and screw that in until it's tight on the drum. So we've just got 6 bolts holding the pump in. I've already removed that one and I've loosened the others. Right, now the fun part. So the pump has 2 threaded holes, one here and one there, and basically you're going to have to slide hammer them out. Like a transmission guy will have a tool that goes across both and then slide hammers out together. I don't have that, so I'll have to slide them out by alternating side to side, and I've got to make sure I get something with the right thread, so got to go searching. So you can see where the threaded holes are in the front of the pump, and I've found some bolts, but I've got no way to grab onto those bolts. So what I've done is taken one of my slide hammer fittings and welded a bolt to the end. So that way, yeah, I can now just screw that in and pull it out. So let's do that. We're going to have to alternate sides. And there's our pump assembly. Now that we've got the pump out of the way, it's time to remove our clutch drums and bands. So I'll loosen off this front band first. Pull the adjuster all the way out. You can see it's released the drum, so we're able to take that out. Okay. So there's our 2 clutch drums. All right, we're going to replace all the clutches in both of those. The outside of the drum has definitely seen some temperature, but I don't think it's too bad. We'll see. Alright. Take the band out. We're definitely going to replace this. Yeah, she's worn down to, you can see there, it's worn down to the metal. So that's definitely for the bin. Alright, and then in here we've got a circlip that we need to remove. Oh, there's our little rod for our kickdown. We're going to replace that. Just take note, there are some washers in here, so here's a little brass faced washer. Looks like steel and brass. Just make note of where that goes. Got our circlip. We've got our other band. Loosen off our other band. Take the nut and adjuster out. So this is the first and reverse band here. Hopefully that's alright, because I don't know that I've got one to replace it. Okay. So there's our first gear planetary, and you can tell it's a low first gear set through the size of the planetary gear there. They're a lot smaller on the 245s. So this is a 2.74. Alright, so that goes in there. Keep them together. And then our other one. So just be aware that there are washers in there that are fairly specific. Make sure you can keep them where they need to be. Alright. Okay. Another washer in there. All right. There's our tail shaft spline. And then there's one more circlip in the back holding the rear drum in. So I've just got to reach in there. Come on. Don't be difficult.
A few moments later.
There we go. Oh, out she comes. Whoop, there we go. There's our drum. It doesn't look too bad at all. And our first and reverse band, which actually looks pretty good. Still got the writing on it. Yeah, I think we can reuse that. You can still see the writing on it. So we're getting pretty close to the end of our teardown. I'm going to leave the sprag alone. It looks like it's fine and I don't want to screw with it. Too complicated for me. But yeah, basically that's this unit here. Then we've got our second gear servo, second gear accumulator and third gear servo. We've got our kick down lever there. That's for the kick down band, which is the front band here, which we are replacing. We're also replacing this lever. So we have to pull out its pivot rod, which goes in from the front of the case here. So just a little quarter drive, undo the plug. So it's just got a plug in the front of the case there. And then the rod comes out. There's our kick down lever, so we'll keep them together. We are replacing this though. I've got a billet unit to replace that. We'll talk about that later. So the second gear accumulator is this plastic piston here. So we're going to replace this as well. I've got a nice shiny billet piston going here. And there's the rod that we put in there as part of our shift kit, just to block that in. It used to have a spring in there from the factory, but we've got the blocker rod, so we're replacing that. So we've got a snap ring there to remove and pull the guts out of that. I'm really just going to clean these out and make sure there's no gunk in them, but basically we're going to do the seals on them, on the pistons, but unless they've got cracks or anything in them, we'll be reusing both servos. There we go. All right. Keep all that together. All right, slide out the rod for this arm here. Band actuator for the first and reverse. Then another clip.
A few moments later.
Okay. Again, we'll keep all these together. Right, well, we've got our trans pulled down to just about nothing. So we'll let it empty out and then we'll give it a clean out. So we'll clean the case as best as we can and then get into the reassembly with some new shiny bits.